Well, hello there, and welcome to the Light Reading Podcast. I'm Jeff Baumgartner, a senior editor at Light Reading.
And I'm Maria Popo, President and CEO of the SCTE.
And I'm Janelle Morse, the VP of Engagement and Strategy at SCTE.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. So we're talking, I don't know, we still have a few days, I think, before SCTE's TechExpo 2025, and we get underway in Washington, D.C. And while the former cable show, or I remember we briefly knew it as INTX, I think it was held there in the past in D.C., but I can't recall if Expo has been held there before. But I think the timing is really interesting because, there's a lot going on in the worlds of cable and broadband technology and policy. And so DC is a pretty good spot, I think, to talk about both here coming up. And just tied in, just the way things work out, we've got a transition going on at NCTA, right? We've got Michael Powell's retiring, Corey Gardner's stepping in. I think he'll be in that spot officially like the week before the show. So anyway, for today though, we're gonna preview the show a little bit, touch on some of the things that are maybe on the horizon for SCTE. So Maria and Janelle, it's good to have you both to kind of cover all this stuff. So maybe to kick off, let's just start big picture and have you talk a little bit about how things are kind of shaping up as the show in DC gets closer. What are you thinking in terms of attendance, exhibitors, the show floor? It's just an interesting time. We're kind of in this consolidating industry, and we've been in one for quite a few years. So I don't know, Maria, maybe that's one for you.
So you're right. There's consolidation, but we're really optimistic, and you'd be amazed, frankly, how many people wait until the last week. But we're tracking pretty well for attendance. Registration's still open, and we're encouraged by the momentum. This year, we're seeing a broader audience and a wave of new speakers and attendees. So that's also exciting. We have some hyperscalers speaking and in attendance. We have application providers. We even have NASA this year. So it's shaping up to be a lot about fresh perspectives and conversations as it is about the technology from previous years, as that's been the major focus. Excited about where it's going.
And people can just show up day of and register if they decide to take the train in or something?
All the way till day of, right, Janelle?
Yes. So anyone can register even up onto the last day. So if somebody wants to come on Tuesday, the 30th, they can come, and they can even come on the 1st and register to come to the event.
Okay. Well, that's good because, they do have a lot of people on the East Coast and in the industry or adjacent to the industry that might want to come by last minute, and maybe some people even in DC. Kind of given some of the policy angles that we're going to see at the at TechExpo. And Janelle, maybe I have you talk a little bit about this, but what do you see as some of the big themes at this year's TechExpo? I was looking through the agendas I was putting together my own schedule, and I definitely saw a lot of sessions about AI and convergence, and of course the evolution of the HFC network. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of updates about DOCSIS 4.0 and some regulatory discussion that's going to tie in. But as you kind of look at it, what do you see as kind of the big ones for this year?
So I think you're spot on. AI is definitely a theme. It's been for any tech event the last few years. AI is the big buzzword and the theme. But I think for TechExpo this year, it's more about the use cases than the theory. So it's where like real tangible benefits are coming into play now and how we can apply them. So the agenda is built with all kinds of case studies. So it's actionable insights people can take back. I think in addition to the other convergence, obviously, because our theme is the seamless experience. So that is definitely a big one. And the evolution of HFC. But I think one last one, I think also is new revenue streams and how we create those differentiated services. So building on from last year, we had a NAS track, network as a service. We've actually shifted that and expanded it, and it's now differentiated services. So you will see sessions on where these new revenue streams are and hearing from operators and other and their partners of how they're doing that with the technology.
I see. Yeah. So we'll get a feel like, hey, where else? What are some other possible growth engines?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We have some exciting ones on play, especially with like ecosystems, bringing the end user of an enterprise in to hear what they're working with operators and the suppliers.
Okay. And as I mentioned up front, having this in Washington, D.C. is interesting, because we've always got some sort of collision or intermixing of technology and policy going on. A lot of it lately has kind of gravitated into the spectrum related issues, which is obviously a lot more important now as cable operators get deeper into mobile and wireless and have access to licensed and unlicensed spectrum. But as I was just looking on the agenda a few days ago, as I was polishing up what I was going to try to cover, I saw that FCC Chairman Brendan Carr is going to be there for the opening session. FCC Commissioner Ana Gomez is going to be there for a fireside chat. And obviously, there's been a lot of policy stuff in the headlines. We'll see what they tend to focus on. And I think that's really been typical for something like the NCTA to focus on, right? They're right in the middle of that. And I did see that they're going to be there in force with the continuum experience that's going to be there. So I guess from a policy perspective, can you talk a little bit about why it's important at this show to have some of the regulatory issues on tap, particularly since we don't have a national show anymore, right? INTX was sunset way back in 2016, which is kind of hard to think that it's been almost 10 years, right?
Yeah, so this year, as you mentioned, being in DC, that facilitates these conversations. And so NCTA being one of our co-hosts, they are a co-host along with Comcast. But given that they're a co-host, they've really invested in this year to bring all of the Hill into the show. I don't know if you're aware, they've invested in a 10,000 square foot exhibition area, and Cable Labs will be.
Is that the continuum?
Is that the?
Yes.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit. Yeah. If you want, as you go on. Yeah.
So in that booth, I should have, I wish I had looked at their post recently, or not that I looked at it, but I have it on hand to share with you. But they have, if you look at their post, they'll show you how it's laid out. But you'll see there is that Cable Labs is actually demoing live demos in their booth because they want to make sure that policymakers can see firsthand what's happening in the networks, so that these policy conversations aren't being held in a vacuum independently without real engagement with the operator. So it's an important and a unique opportunity, and it's one that NCTA, right, that's their expertise, they're well positioned to lead. So we're excited to have them there and bring in all of these policy leaders into the show. And as you mentioned, there's lots of different topics, and you may want to even bring NCTA in and have some conversation with them. But they are talking about lots of topics. You mentioned spectrum, there's BEAD, right? There's other issues like the cable theft and infrastructure attacks that we've talked about, Jeff, recently. And
we got the strike initiative happening.
Exactly. And that's kicking off on Tuesday. So right time, right place, right discussions.
Yeah, I know I'm going to be spending some time there for some of the sessions that I've pulled into my schedule. And yeah, you mentioned NCTA and kind of reaching out to them. I think they're doing like a reception of some kind. I think on Monday. I'll double check
They
that.
are.
Yeah, so I'll definitely be there and you know check that out. And then so we're going to be there through Wednesday, and I was looking through the agenda and saw that we're going to have a big session on Energy 2020, right? And we've been covering that for a long time, but I was like, wow, this is pretty in depth in terms of like I want to say like hours, like four. I mean, so really going deep on that. So heading into the show, what should we know about Energy 2020 at this point? Yeah. And maybe just give us like an update on what it is, right? Because it's definitely evolved.
Yes. So given that energy remains, one of the critical resources shaping the industry due to, I was just thinking about some of the reasons why, right? AI uses significant power. And so what we thought about when it came to the energy section is that we should bring in Energy 2020 Summit that was held separately into TechExpo. So this way, instead of running independently, let's combine them. Because I think it's been like 11 years ago that SCTE launched the initiative. And today it feels like it's the right time that we bring them back over into TechExpo and to engage with that same community. So let me think. Some of the areas that the summit will spotlight include, adaptive power strategies, advancements of equipment energy controls, emerging HVAC technologies, and I believe there's a panel on how we can work with grid providers to enhance reliability.
Okay. So covering quite a bit of ground.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And what do you think is going to be like new and different at this year's show? We talked about Continuum and a couple of other things I came across. I think it was AI Zone. I think that's new. So with Cable Labs and NCTA. So I don't know, Janelle, what's your
Jeff? So AI Zone isn't new. We started that last year, so it's continuing on. But one of the biggest changes, and I don't know if you've noticed it in the agenda, is just the agenda. It's not all technical papers anymore. Mm-hmm. That was, I think, the biggest change we've had. And I think it's going to really change what the conversations are at the event. So we have panels, masterclasses, workshops. We still have technical papers, but they're more forward-thinking papers. So the technology is not out there being used yet. It's 1 to 3 years in the future. So I think that's really exciting for us. And it really opens up a bigger dialogue for conversations. That's the biggest change. I think the second one is the introduction of Stream Tech, which we've partnered with SVTA, who is another association, to do deep dives into technology and strategy and innovations that are reshaping how we deliver and scale like the broadcasting and streaming. It really came into play because we have standards with the ad insertions, right? So it was a natural fit to let's start a track on the similar topic. But we wanted to partner with another association as well to make that perfect track. So it's our first year. We're in discussions already to bring it to us to next year when we go to Atlanta. But that's very exciting for us. And we have some great speakers from YouTube on there to NASA. So that's very exciting.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. And then, this is probably more of just like an observation I was just thinking about, but maybe we give a shout out to the cable TV pioneers, because that'll be happening. The dinner's on Sunday. So that'll be good. Hopefully we'll see you there. And then also, it's just weird about the timing. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but I thought it just kind of interesting that as the show is getting launched, we have like 3 industry related books all landing at the same time, right? We've got Craig Letty's book about the full service network and streaming, and I just read that thing cover to cover. It's really amazing. Rusbe, Yassini, and Stuart Schley did the book about the rise of the cable modem and the evolution of DOCSIS. And Maria, you're in the middle. You're really heavily involved in that market. And then we've got the John Malone book, Born to Be Wired, and Mark Robichaux, my old editor at Multichannel News, was very instrumental in putting that together with John Malone. I've read 2 of them. I have, I'll be reading the Malone book. Have you had a chance to read any of these yet, or are they on your reading list at this point?
I did download the Malone book, and I'll get to all of them after Expo. But
yes,
Maria, you have all this spare time. I don't know.
No, I'm interested. I'm interested in looking into it. In the Malone book, Cable Labs is mentioned quite extensively, so that will be interesting.
Yeah. And what do you think about the Rusbe book? Because you were, when you were at UB and right in the middle of certain evolutionary steps, of DOCSIS. I can't remember how far you go back on that.
We're not talking about that here.
Oh, we're not. I mean, I've been covering DOCSIS, since the 1.0 days. So, I've been around.
I will share that I do remember the telco return modems. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Right.
I forgot about that.
That was stage 1 at the very beginning. So,
That's right.
And I was at 3Com, which had acquired U.S. Robotics at the time. So one of the one of the first modem manufacturers. Yeah, I look forward to understanding, looking at it through his lens and how he saw the industry and how everything evolved from then.
Yeah, the telco return, it does remind me of something too, because when I remember when TiVo first came on the market and they had that big giant device made by, one of them was by Philips, and that's the one I had. And it had a telco return. Yeah, there was, and it was actually it was all telco. It was all dial-up.
It was all right. The 56K, the 56.
Yeah, and it was anyway. But yeah, the telco return, the good old days.
Yeah, Janelle is like, Janelle is.
I don't.
No idea
sorry.
what you're talking about.
Janelle's like, yeah.
Can you all reminisce?
Like, I wasn't there for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Well, let's. All right. We talked about the show. Let's talk a little bit about maybe looking ahead as much as we can, right? And what can we say about Tech Expo for future events, right? For 2026 beyond. I think DC is a really interesting spot to do it this year, but in the recent past, it's kind of been triangulating around Denver, Atlanta, Philadelphia, kind of lining up where the cable operators have headquarters or a big presence with divisions and organizations. So, I know y'all you need to plan ahead for all this stuff. What can you tell us at this point?
Yeah, so next year we are back in Atlanta, September 29th through October 1st, exact same dates, but Tuesday through Thursday. And that's just a hangover from when we had a delay for COVID and we had to restructure contracts. But starting in 27, it's really exciting is we're making Denver our home for the foreseeable future. It's a great venue. It's home to a lot of our operators, and they have a built on an extension with a beautiful piece of the convention center with natural light. So our plan right now is from 27 on to be in Denver.
Wow. Well, that's really great news for me because then, I don't have to fly anywhere. So
yes,
thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And the city of Denver thanks you very much, I think. So that's great. Okay. And then outside of the events, maybe let's talk a little bit about what's going on with SCTE as an organization. Maria, you and I talked last fall, right, about some changes about course curriculum and continuing work on standards. And it was like this initially like a work in progress. You provided a pretty good update, I think, at last year's Tech Expo. But just catch us up.
So since last year, I think one of the main themes that I worked to put out last year was that we would stop working, SCTE would stop working in silos amongst ourselves. And then we wanted to align more strategically with operators and vendors and the global community at large. So after the past year, we've done that. Our standards, we're building coursework that is built on our standards, and we're using new learning formats. So a refresh. So you'll see us announce this year, our first course with a new format, which will be the PNM, the Proactive Network Maintenance course. And so the idea is that our curriculum is being restructured into more clear pathways and within a certification framework, because we know that career progression is important, building skills is important, and those two need to connect. On the chapter side, talked about how do we better engage and collaborate and learn, especially leveraging peer learning, which is a fantastic way to retain knowledge and really understand knowledge. And so on the chapter front, we're connecting in ways that we can all cross across the chapters, as I talked about last year. And so we have a digital infrastructure that we'll actually have it to demo this year at the show. And that enables us to do the other thing that I talked about, which is to then engage past not only the US, but into other continents. So that enables us to expand our international community. And so that's come to fruition too. We'll talk a little bit about that at Expo also. And we talked a little bit about strike. That was also important to align at the executive level, because that accelerates everything else that we do. And so all of those areas are connected, right? They accelerate each other. And feels good to come into this year to know that we've put that infrastructure in place and we're ready to move forward and kind of act like the industry's acceleration platform.
Okay. Well, I think the last thing I wanted to talk about is, one of the core things with SCTE being related to standards, right? And as we talked about earlier, the evolution of HFC is going to be an important area that at least that will be discussed, and something that I'm going to be trying to keep an eye on and talking to people about. And we continue to see that DOCSIS still has legs to it, a long future, even as PON becomes a player in network expansions and new builds and all these government subsidized builds. But last year at the show, there was this big announcement about the potential successor to 4.0 that would target, moving spectrum up to 3 gigahertz. And I think the Cable Labs passed along some information to me that, they're even looking at spectrum above that. So anyway, from SCTE's standpoint, I know you've been doing some work in the 3 gigahertz arena in terms of developing standards around that. So, heading into the show, are there any updates or kind of just a status on the organization's activity in 3 gigahertz or possibly even beyond that?
Yeah, so this won't be a very exciting answer. I think that a lot of the specification work around 3 gigahertz or even 6 gigahertz is happening at the Cable Labs level. And while we're really at really early stages, those specs have to be in place before we can think about operationalizing it. So right now,
sure,
it's more about. It's a little bit like we're waiting to determine what is the next training needed to support the upgraded plant. So not exciting as far as an SCTE perspective today, but we're ready for it. And the good news is that we'll know right away, right? Since we're aligned with Cable Labs, we'll be ready to to work with them and then decide what training or what standards are the most optimal standards or paths to choose.
Okay. Yeah, you're right, because we're really only at the early stages of the 4.0
Exactly. That's right.
era.
That's
Yeah.
right.
But you always want to think ahead, and kind of see where things might go down the road. So it'll be something be keeping an eye on out there, especially if there's any big declarations in that direction. So I think that's where we're going to leave it today. I know we covered a lot of ground about the event and other things going on at SCTE. So enjoy getting ready for the show here in the coming days. And we'll look forward to seeing you both in DC. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Jeff, for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Look forward to seeing you in DC.
All right, me too. Thanks.